YouTube? I'm back with another video. This one's gonna be a sex game. Is Coke for men and is Pepsi for women? Now, this is kind of like a breaking grounds types of video. Because I don't make too many of these types of videos, it's a new concept. It's new, it's fresh, it's not the same old stuff. It's unpredictable. It's a new groundbreaking video. Now, Coca-Cola is one of my favorite drinks. Whenever I go to the movies, whenever I used to always buy, candy, popcorn, and a drink, I always go for Coca-Cola. If it's McDonald's, if it's Burger King, if it's Taco Bell, if it's Del Taco, if it's Carl's Jr. or Jack in the Box, about 85 to 90% of the time, I always go for Coca-Cola. I have a history with Coca-Cola. Going back to when I was a little kid. I used to see my dad, whenever his car would get messed up, he would take some Coca-Cola and put it in the radiator. And I was kind of like baffled on why would you take a drink that's a soda, until he explained that sometimes the battery acid can't, restart or recharge your car up, and you might need some Coke to try to help the battery get a jump start. You would have the cables. That's the only time you use Coca-Cola is when you actually had no other alternative. And I saw him do it at least 4 or 5 times, and I kind of went, wow, Coca-Cola, the drink, not only you can drink Coca-Cola, but you actually could use that for your car, which I was shocked. And then fast forward 10 years later when I go to high school and I took a class, it came up on an exam. What happens if you are plopped out of options? And I just put Coca-Cola, not realizing that I had a Coca-Cola in my backpack in the professor and auto mechanic class, which by the way I failed because I wouldn't halfway come to class, and I halfway didn't want to, I didn't want to go to class. But point was, that was the only answer on the test I was worth answering. It's Coca-Cola, and the teacher kind of knew that the only reason why I came to class because I knew that would be on the test. But the point is, I have a history with Coca-Cola, and Pepsi. I always kind of stayed away from Pepsi because it was too sweet, too much sugar. And I always felt like they just loaded so much sugar in the Pepsi. It was like one punch. It was like, yeah, some caffeine. And I always thought Pepsi would be like, if you couldn't get caffeine, you would probably go for Pepsi if you needed the energy to stay up at night. And I always thought Pepsi was more of an energy caffeine drink than an actual drinking drink. But then I see a lot of girls love Pepsi. Every girl that I've tried to get my Mac on, which I got rejected by back in high school and college, the vast majority of the women, I ask them what it is about Pepsi you love, and they go, I like Pepsi 5 times more than I like Coca-Cola. I remember one time there was this one girl that was just Pepsi out in high school, Westchester High School. Fine, light-skinned black girl, got a body on her. She was most popular. She had the Pepsi jacket, Pepsi shirt, Pepsi jeans. She was just all Pepsi out. And the basketball and football team didn't know what nickname to give her, so we ended up calling her the Pepsi Girl. She actually kind of laughed at that because every time she wear her Pepsi outfit to the nightclubs and the bars and to go to basketball and football games, all the athletes that play basketball and football, they would get distracted and they would turn to the side and they would see Pepsi, and next thing I know, they would smile like she all Pepsi out. Come to find out, she actually went on a date with 2 professional football players and 2 professional basketball players in 5 months of each other. And a lot of the guys in high school were mad because they were trying to holler at this fine, light-skinned black girl, and couldn't nobody get with her because they would just get rejected left and right. But we called her the Pepsi Girl because she was all Pepsi out. You remember those jackets in the late 90s, early 2000s, if you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s or even 60s, you remember the Pepsi jacket. You remember those race cars where they would always have one race car Coca-Cola and another race car Pepsi? And during the late 90s, early 2000s, they had the legendary Coke Wars, where it was Coke versus Pepsi. You know, Coca-Cola would call theirs Black Cherry, and then I think Pepsi called theirs Wild Cherry. You know, Coca-Cola had Coke Vanilla, and then Pepsi had Pepsi Vanilla. And I was kind of like shocked that two of the world's biggest large companies that are multi-billionaires, I mean, they were millionaires and then they went from millionaires to mega billionaires, would clash against each other. I remember that if you watch Batman with Michael Keaton, they would do Diet Coke. And then Pepsi went back and went Diet Pepsi. You know, and they would probably have some commercial where a girl's in the gym working out, and for her choice of drink, like, she had to choose between the Pepsi or the Coca-Cola, and she just looked at the Coke like in disgust, like, get that Coca-Cola away from me. And when she picked up the Pepsi, she had that smile. I remember when they had Beyonce, Beyonce would do that Pepsi commercial, and I always thought that ever since Beyonce drunk a Pepsi, most women just naturally wanted to drink a Pepsi. The girl that I try to, you know, hook up with at a store in the Grove area, she likes Pepsi, you know, and told me that Coca-Cola has too much acid in it, and it gives her, I don't think she meant her necessarily. I think she meant that when any girl drinks Coca-Cola, it gives you acid digestion. Like, you drink too much of that, then your stomach gets the bubbling, you know, the bubbles start to bubble your stomach. And I kind of looked at her, and we kind of found ourselves in a Coca-Cola Pepsi debate. Because I was like, Pepsi's too sweet, and I only drink Pepsi if that's the only drink that's available. But I always try to stay away from Pepsi. You know, when I drink some Pepsi, I can't go to sleep because it's got caffeine in it. And if I wanted 100% natural caffeine, then I just get something that's 100% natural caffeine. Coke, I always thought Coca-Cola was a man's drink. You know, it's hard, it's strong. And when you want some alcohol beverages, guess what two drinks they're using? Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Go figure, right? Just think about that. When you go to the nightclubs, the bars, you go to sporting events. I don't care if it's basketball, football, baseball, soccer. They use alcohol about 85 to 90% in those nightclubs and bars and restaurants, right? And the two drinks that get used for their alcohol beverages is Coca-Cola and Pepsi, if you actually think about it. If you say, I want some Pepsi, it's going to be in a tequila shot. You know, that might be one of the times where you see some Pepsi and you might be okay. As long as it's in an alcohol beverage, I'm good. I'm alright. You know, if it's Coca-Cola, you'd be like, yeah, give me some hot scotch, or give me some vodka. And you might be trying to figure why they might mix a soda with some alcohol in it. I mean, even if you look at candy when I was a kid, they would take one candy and pair it off with Coca-Cola, and would take another candy and pair it off with Pepsi. And I remember when they used to have the video games, Sega Genesis, with those old school NBA 2K video games in the late 90s, early 2000s. I remember my younger half brother would take one basketball team and make it the Coca-Cola basketball team, and then take the other team and call them the Pepsi basketball team. Where if you remember NBA 2K1 or NBA 2K3 or NBA 2K4, one of those, you could create your own basketball team from scratch and put them into the NBA. And he would have Coca-Cola play against Pepsi in a basketball game. Like, what if Coca-Cola and Pepsi was a real live professional basketball team in a video game scenario? And he would pick the coaches, which of course he always made Coke have, you know, either Phil Jackson, which was the head coach of the Lakers, and he would always try to get either a coach from the East to be the coach of the basketball Pepsi team. And then I remember during the height of it, they actually did get a basketball team to be sponsored by Coca-Cola and another one sponsored by Pepsi. And then I remember Nike and Jordan saw that opportunity, and I remember that if you wore some Nikes they had it where you probably would drink a Pepsi. You were wearing some Michael Jordans, you'd probably be trying to drink a Coca-Cola. I mean, same thing with ice cream. I remember if you went to Ben and Jerry's, you probably saw a Coca-Cola to put in your ice cream. If you went to Baskin Robbins and you had some ice cream, you probably put some Pepsi in your ice cream. I'm just trying to tell you, this is like a fun video because it's new, it's groundbreaking. A lot of you men will probably go, yeah, I remember that when I was in high school and college. If you're in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s and your 60s. Some of y'all that's in your 20s probably be like, yeah, I've noticed it. Every time I take a woman out to lunch and dinner, and whenever we order some lunch or some dinner and it's a drink, she usually go for Pepsi. Some of y'all in your 20s be like, yeah, he is right. Every time I turn around, she ordering a Pepsi. I order a Coke, she be like, why you want that Coke? That's a hard drink. And usually I was going to do this same type of video, but I was going to get the Coca-Cola t-shirt, right? And then I was going to get the Coca-Cola and drink the Coca-Cola with the Coca-Cola t-shirt and say, this is some good shit. This is some good shit. Yeah, I got to try some Coca-Cola. It's some good shit. But every time I go to Target to get the Coca-Cola t-shirt, they run out too fast. Dead strange and ironic when I want a Coca-Cola t-shirt right next to where the Coca-Cola shirts sell out, they just happen to have a t-shirt of Pepsi. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with Pepsi because I do drink Pepsi, but only when that's the only soda that's available. When there's a drink that's available, I love me some Coca-Cola. And I've even had some people look at me like, why you want that acid battery drink? And I'd be like, it's Coke, man. Why you want that Pepsi drink? Oh, Pepsi is better than Coca-Cola. And that's probably how the Coke-Pepsi war started in the late 1990s, early 2000s. They would get actors and athletes to drink those drinks. Like Gatorade, right? Gatorade kind of, in a way, associates with Coca-Cola. I mean, Powerade, on the other hand, I'm not so sure about. But if you really think about Coca-Cola and then you think about Gatorade, same thing with Powerade. I would never catch too many women drinking a Gatorade. Oh, it's got too much salt in it. That I see them mess with a Powerade and they be like, Powerade is better than Gatorade. Hell, like, what the hell? They both energy supplement drinks. What you saying? So, I just wanted to make this video because it's just a fun video to talk about. Now, have I ever seen some women drink some Coca-Cola? Oh, yeah, I've seen some women drink some Coca-Cola. I've even seen some women drink 2 or 3 Coca-Colas, and if you mix it with some alcohol, it turns into a drinking contest. So I just wanted to make this very fun, groundbreaking video, and hopefully in the near future I can take more concepts. Like I have an idea for Snickers, Hershey's chocolate candy bar, and debate which chocolate candy bar is better. But then I thought about, what if I took the Snickers or the Hershey's chocolate candy bar and do something like on the lines of them versus C's candy, or something fun and exciting that's not too serious here on YouTube. You know, so until then, peace.